Hi friends, today in this video lecture we are going to see about the electrocardiogram which is abbreviated as ECG. I am Karthik and my team members are Ponmurugan Selvam and Navaraja P. So we together have designed this video lecture and I am named Karthik. We are going to proceed. So first of all, what is ECG? So ECG is monitoring of electrical activity of the heart. Because in heart, some electrical activity is going on for the chambers to contract for the pumping the blood. So if you monitor that electrical activity, if you plot that electrical activity in the form of a signal that is called as the ECG signal. And how the ECG signal can be recorded is it can be recorded by placing the surface electrodes on the limbs or chest. And ECG is perhaps the most commonly recognized and used biomedical signal. So it is much recorded from the patients because the ECG will give information about if any heart disease is present in the patient, or if there is any abnormality of the heart that can be actually diagnosed using the ECG signal of the patient. So even the heartbeat can be calculated using the ECG signal of the patient. And also the diseases like cardiovascular diseases and some abnormalities like myocardial ischemia. Myocardial ischemia means the heart is not able to pump the blood properly, so that if the blood is not reached in the various organs, then various organs will not work. And also the myocardial infarction. Infarction means there is no blood supply in some part of the heart, so heart itself will not be working, so that will lead to a condition called as the heart attack. And also some other diseases like ventricular hypertrophy and also some conduction problems can be diagnosed from the ECG signal. So the ventricular hypertrophy means thickening of the ventricular valve, so that the ventricle chamber in the heart is not able to contract and relax properly. Due to that, the pumping of the blood from the heart is going to be less. So in this slide we can see the ECG signal pattern. So this is the ECG signal shape or the pattern. So in ECG there are various waves, like you have a P wave, you have a QRS wave and T wave and U wave. So each wave corresponds to a particular functionality of the heart. So that we will be detailedly discussing in the forthcoming slides. So now we will talk what happens in the cardiac cycle. What are the events and sequence takes place in the cardiac cycle. Cardiac cycle means it is timely pumping of the heart. The heart is every time pumping the blood, so it is called as a cycle, because it's happening again and again. So that is called as a cardiac cycle. So what happens first in the cardiac cycle is the electrical impulse from a SA node fires. So there is a SA node from where the electrical impulses are generated and it is fired. Then after that, the electrical activity is then propagated through the atrial muscles at comparatively very low rates, and they cause the slow moving depolarization or contraction of the atria. So there is a contraction of the atria after the SA node fires the impulse, and then it goes to the atrium through the muscles. There is a contraction of the atria that results in a wave called as the P wave in ECG, and its amplitude is around 0.1 to 0.2 millivolt, and the time duration of the P wave is 60 to 80 milliseconds. Then after that, what happens is the third step. The excitation wave faces a propagation delay at the atrioventricular node, which results in normally isoelectric segment of 60 to 80 milliseconds after P wave in the ECG known as PQ segment. So there is a very low voltage after the P wave. There is a low voltage, or we can say uh, around 0 volt, just like a straight line, that is called as a PQ segment. So there is some delay there for the electrical impulses to come from the SA node to AV, that is atrioventricular node. So there is a delay between movement of electrical pulses from SA node to AV node. So that delay is called as a PQ segment, comes after the P segment, as we discussed. So this is a pass, we can say. There is no much electrical activity taking place in the PQ segment. So this will give the time for the blood from atria to get transferred and filled in ventricles. Then there is a His bundle. The bundle branches and the Purkinje system present in the from the ventricles. They are there from the ventricles and they cover some portion of the ventricles. This that is called as the Purkinje system or Purkinje bundles, Purkinje fibers. So they carry current to the ventricles at a very high rate so that the ventricles can contract. Then what happens is there is a contraction of the ventricles, and that produces a wave called as QRS wave in the ECG, and its amplitude is 1 millivolt and time duration is 80 milliseconds. And after that there is a ST segment of time duration. It is about 100 to 120 milliseconds, that is after QRS wave. So this segment is called as the plateau portion of the long action potential of ventricular muscle cells. So this ST segment is a time where the ventricles have a lot more uh, action potential, or more voltage. So ventricles are still actually contracting, so they take a lot of time to contract. So due to that there is a ST segment, and then after that the relaxation of ventricles will take place. That produces a T wave, with an amplitude of 0.1 to 0.3 millivolt and the duration of 120 to 160 milliseconds. And if there is any disturbance in the regular rhythmic activity of the heart, then it is termed as the arrhythmia. So if the heart is not beating properly of this cardiac cycle, if there is any problem in this cardiac cycle, then that is termed as the arrhythmia. So a cardiac arrhythmia may be caused due to the irregular firing patterns from the SA node, or by abnormal and additional pacing activity from other parts of the heart. So now how the ECG signal is actually acquired. So clinically speaking, the ECG signal is acquired using 12 channel ECG electrodes, surface electrodes, placed uh, 4 limb leads and 6 chest leads are placed. The right leg is used to place the reference electrode. And how the electrodes or the chest leads, we can call, are placed, now we are going to see. So there are 10 wires on ECG machine that are connected to the specific parts of the body. These wires break down into two groups. So 6 chest leads and 4 limb or peripheral leads. So one of these is neutral. The 6 leads are positioned as shown in this figure. So you can see the 6 leads are positioned. So they are positioned in a particular way, in a particular fashion, on a particular spot. So that we are going to see next how these 6 leads are placed. So the 6 leads are actually on the figure labeled as V leads, and V1 corresponds to the first lead and V6 corresponds to the sixth lead, and they are positioned in a specific positions on the rib cage. We know there is a rib cage. To position them accurately, it is important to be able to identify the angle of Lewis or the sternal angle. So to find it yourself, you can place your fingers gently on the base of the throat in a center position and move your fingers downward until you can feel the top of the sternum or the rib cage. From this position, continue to move your fingers downward until you feel a bony loop. So this is the angle of Lewis. The angle of Lewis is most easily found when the patient is lying down because the surrounding tissue is tighter against the rib cage. So then from the angle of Lewis, we can move the fingers to the right and we can feel a gap between the ribs. So this gap is called as the second intercostal space. So from this position, we can run down the fingers across the next rib and the next one. The space now you are in is the fourth intercostal space, where this space meets the sternum. It is the position for V1. So like that, V2, V3, V4 are positioned in some manner with respect to the second intercostal space, fifth intercostal space. And this is the placement of the lymph leads. So lymph leads are made up of 4 leads placed on extremities, left and right wrist, left and right ankle. As we can see, left and right leads and left and right ankle. So the lead connected to the right ankle is neutral lead, like you would find in an electric plug, like a neutral or a ground. It is there to complete an electrical circuit and plays no role in the ECG. So this is for the grounding purpose basically. I mean, this neutral is for the grounding purpose. And if you see the block diagram of ECG signal, then after the ECG is acquired from the patient, from the leads, it is given to the protection circuit. Protection circuit is a circuit which will protect the patient not experiencing any current shock, and also the circuits there in the ECG, it will protect that there is no any short circuit. And then there is an instrumentation amplifier which amplifies the ECG signal, because ECG signal voltage is very low in terms of the micro and millivolts. So they have to be amplified. So they will be amplified. Then there is a band pass filter and again amplifier. So filter is used to remove the noise basically. And then there is a notch filter here, you can see. This will remove the 60 Hz noise which is coming from the electrical system around the patient. So there is a electrical lighting system and so many electrical system. From there we will get a AC signal noise of 60 Hz that is removed by using a notch filter. Then there is an isolation amplifier. Then to store the ECG signal in computer and process it, there is a analog to digital converter and digital to analog converter to get the ECG signal back from the computer. So thank you for listening to my video lecture. Thank you.